Okay, my clock shows a couple of minutes after the top of the hour, so let's get started. Thank you again for joining us and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Emilian Gatesy, and I'm the director of the North American Association for Environmental Education's Early Childhood Program, Natural Start. We are a coalition of individuals and organizations who want to help young children connect with nature and care for the environment. Thank you for joining us for this final installment of NAAEE's 2018 monthly webinar series. We're so excited today to be hosting 3 expert panelists who will be discussing nature-based learning in K-3 classrooms across North America. And we're thrilled to collaborate with several organizations to bring you today's webinar: the Northern Illinois Nature Preschool Association, Antioch University New England, and the Child and Nature Alliance of Canada. Thank you to these organizations and to all of you for joining us today. Before we introduce our speakers, I just want to take a moment to also thank our affiliate co-hosts for this webinar. NAAEE has 56 state and regional affiliate organizations across North America, and each month several of these organizations step up to help us co-host these webinars. So we just wanted to extend a big thank you to the 23 affiliates who are co-hosting with us today and helping us expand our reach and diversify our audience. We shape NAAEE's monthly webinar series based on the feedback and interests of environmental education professionals, with the goal of bringing new ideas and thinking to our work and showcasing thought leaders working in EE and other related fields. We do plan to continue the series into 2019, so please keep an eye out on EE Pro to stay up to date on upcoming topics and speakers. And please feel free to use the survey link on this slide to send us your ideas for what you'd like to hear about in the 2019 series. For those of you who are new to using the Zoom webinar software, just a reminder that all audio lines are currently muted, but we encourage you to comment or ask questions at any time using the chat box. If you locate the black toolbar at the top of your screen and click chat, the chat box will appear and you can send a message to everyone in the webinar or just the panelists using the drop-down menu at the bottom of the chat box. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat box throughout the presentation to take note of any incoming questions or comments, and we'll ask the speakers as many of them as possible throughout the webinar. If you run into any technical problems during the webinar, please feel free to reach out to Tia or Kristen, my colleagues at NAAEE, via email, or you can message them again directly using the chat box in Zoom. And now I'm thrilled to introduce our moderator and facilitator for the rest of the panel discussion, Sarah Sheldon. Sarah is the lead teacher at the Chicago Botanic Garden Nature Preschool. She holds a Master's of Education from Antioch University New England with a graduate certificate in nature-based early childhood education. Sarah is passionate about expanding the field of nature-based education and serves as a professional development advisor for the Northern Illinois Nature Preschool Association and is a team lead for the Professional Development and Resources Committee of the National Council of Nature and Forest Preschools. Sarah, thank you for facilitating today's conversation, and I'm going to let you take it away from here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emilian. Well, that was plenty about me. I'd like to introduce our speakers or our panelists this evening. They're coming from a diverse areas across not just the United States, but also Canada. Our first speaker this evening or panelist is Peter Dargitz. He's a national board certified kindergarten teacher at Woodside Elementary School in Sussex, Wisconsin. He is also the coordinator of a nature kindergarten program that was founded there in 2015 and has spread through the upper grade levels, which is pretty exciting. Additionally, Peter is the Tyke Hikes coordinator for the ICC Alliance and a member of the Wisconsin Nature-Based Early Childhood Association called WINBECA. Peter is here tonight and awaiting the arrival of his 3rd baby, so if he has to dash, you know where he's heading. So thank you for being with us tonight, Peter.
Of course.
Thank you. The next panelist I'd like to introduce is Jacqueline Whelan. She is an elementary school teacher and a member of the Ontario College Teachers with specialties in French as a second language and social studies. She began her career teaching Montessori and facilitating dynamic, student-led, multi-grade classroom communities. Sounds really exciting. Her work with the Ottawa Carleton District School Board has focused on guiding her students through inquiry-based learning, placing an emphasis on the play and emergent curriculum. She's also completed the four-school practitioner course, bringing nature-based experiential learning and loose parts play into her practice. She's super excited about accompanying new teachers to the four-school program in partnership with the boards of outdoor education centers. And finally, I'd like to introduce everyone to Eliza Manucci. Eliza is a kindergarten teacher, and she's currently on hiatus from the classroom to raise her two young boys. So if you see Eliza dash off tonight, she's checking in on those boys of hers. In 2013, she founded a public school kindergarten forest day program and now team teaches and leads professional development to help other teachers take their students outside. She has worked closely along with other teachers in more than 25 public classrooms, currently doing a weekday forest program. Eliza also teaches the nature-based early childhood curriculum at Antioch University New England and recently co-authored a book titled A Forest Days Handbook, Program Design for School Days Outside. I wanted to thank you all for joining us just one more time and thank our panelists for being here. It's going to be a wonderful, well thought about, diverse conversation. I just know it. And I think the best place to begin is with a question towards Eliza and Peter about what a hybrid forest kindergarten and traditional classroom looks like. So tell us a little bit more about your schedule and the resources and maybe how to figure out group dynamics when you're outdoors with your traditional classroom. So Peter, could you start us off today? What does it look like in Sussex, Wisconsin in your classroom? Peter, are you there tonight? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I
Okay.
just heard you now for the first time in about a minute or so.
Huh, could the rest of you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
Peter, we're gonna start off with what the hybrid forest kindergarten and traditional kindergarten, what that looks like. How does it mesh at your school? So
Sure, of course.
things like that.
Definitely. Well, as all of you know who are involved in early childhood education, a very important element of that is being flexible. You have to be flexible with pretty much everything because you're going to get a whole smorgasbord of kids coming in at varying different levels of ability, experiences in their preschool education, and it's just, you have to be really prepared because you never know what you're going to get. It's kind of like that box of chocolates, Forrest Gump kind of mentality when you start the year. I like to build my structure really focusing on what I like to consider unstructured structure, where I'm giving the kids a lot of choice, opportunity to learn about the expectations by actually doing them, not just a lot of sit and listen and then kind of want them to regurgitate it back. You really want them to be part of it and be a part of the process. So I really focus on getting the kids just familiar with each other, familiar with their settings. And doing that in an outdoor expectations or in an outdoor setting definitely has different elements of it, but you obviously has to continue your routines and make it a habit. Hold those expectations high, no matter if you're an inside or outside. Really kind of keep those expectations for inside and outside similar so that they're not getting two different messages and that they consider their classroom to be their classroom, whether it's within four walls or out in the wild, really holding those kids to that same level and getting that experience. I like to try to keep it as emergent as possible and give kids the opportunity to kind of lead where we go. Obviously in a public school, sometimes that's a little trickier because you do have your regulated curriculum that you need to mandate, but essentially you can find ways to give the kids what they need and also reach those expectations. And we've been able to do that at my school here and exceeding the expectations. We just were one of the third highest school in our entire state for our report card. Now that's just one level of kind of expectations, but really exciting about that. It's been our highest mark to this point since this new development started. So it's been pretty cool. And we really work hard to give the kids the opportunity to take the lead and really show that they can do things when we give them the opportunity to do so and the ability to practice and show what they can do. So it's really giving power to the kids, and that's really empowering for me as an educator. Sometimes tricky. Getting rid of that control can be a little bit tricky, but giving it to the kids really will have its benefits. And it takes time to get there, but you'll be amazed at what the kids do when you give them the chance.
That's wonderful. So I'm hearing unstructured, structure, keeping that inside to match the outside. The expectations are still the same, and letting the children lead in their emergent curriculum what they're interested in following. Eliza, how does the hybrid model look like in the New England area with the schools you've worked with?
Let me unmute myself. So with the schools that I've worked with, a lot of them have done the Forest Day model, where they do 1 day a week, and it might be 3 to 5 hours every week outside in a wild space. But it could look differently. It could be a certain amount of time every day, so every morning outside. I think the thing that I would recommend be consistent is that you commit to frequent and extended time in the same wild space to get the most benefit out of the sort of forest kindergarten idea, or forest first grade, or forest second grade. Yeah.
All right. And Peter, so Eliza's saying that 1 day a week, 3 to 5 hours, or a morning a week. How often do your students go out in the kindergarten programs?
And I do want to just clarify, I'm having some trouble hearing when Eliza's speaking. Everyone else I'm hearing so far fine, but I'm not sure if that's just me, but I'm noticing that issue. So I apologize if it's on my end. But in terms of responding to that, I did start off kind of following the model that I reached out to Eliza when I started this program. She was one of the first people I had researched and found. And I did focus on 1 day a week where we were pretty much outside pretty much the whole day. And since then, I still do that, but now I do find much more need and responsibility on my end to take the kids out every single day as much as possible. So we kind of do more of an everyday experience. Now, different settings are going to have different opportunities. If your outdoor site is not connected to your indoor site, obviously you're going to have to maybe rely on just that 1 day a week. I'm lucky enough to have our outdoor space directly behind our school, 20 yards away from our back door. So I'm able to go out every day. So my program has really developed and morphed and evolved over the last few years, but we really focus on daily interactions out in nature. And some days we're out there usually out there multiple hours every day, even in the tougher weather. Today was kind of a cold, blustery day, but we found a way to go out there for 45 minutes to start the day, half an hour before lunch, and another hour in the afternoon. So we do look for daily interactions as much as possible.
That's wonderful. So I'm curious though, how do you have these conversations with administration and supporting other teachers? How about can you work to support your ideas of taking the students out, either an hour a day or a full day a week? Where do the conversations go? Can you help us, Eliza, figure out how do we navigate those conversations?
So I try to use a lot of the research that's available, like using the Children and Nature Network research library online. Peer Associates, a firm in Vermont, just published a literature review that sourced over 50 peer-reviewed cited studies about the benefits of nature, play, and learning. And so I'll bring a lot of research to the table. And then I also invite all the stakeholders to come with us so they see it in action. So parents, grandparents, taxpayers, retirees in the community, other teachers, supervisory union, school district, content specialists, the superintendent, the school board, everybody, just to be out there with us.
That's wonderful. I like that idea of bringing everyone out and also saddling them up with all the resources that you can think of that will help them understand. Jackie, do you have any other insight of how to have these conversations? What do your conversations look like up in Canada?
Yeah, well, I was really lucky when I was first looking into how to bring forest school to my students. It really wasn't happening in Canada in public schools, but I had an administrator who was super excited about it, and he could just immediately, without even looking at the research, see the benefits to it. So I had someone on my side to begin with, which is always really helpful. And then we started going up the level. So we started talking to superintendents and the principals of services about what for school would look like in the classroom and what the benefits could be for students. And we looked at existing documents that our school board already had published. So we had a framework for student well-being that included socio-emotional well-being as well as cognitive and physical well-being, and we used that as a jumping point to show forest school could really help schools, teachers, and the district meet their goals for helping students with achievement and well-being.
Okay.
So that's one way, yeah.
It's a wonderful way. Have any of you ran into an administrator or a parent that is against nature school days? And how have you overcome those fears or hesitations? Has it been providing the research again, or through conversation, or just inviting out? Any strategies for folks who might run into this problem as well?
Well, I can jump in on this one. Most of the times when I've been going outside with my students for about 5 years now, and I don't often have pushback from parents in terms of academics. They're not worried that their students are going to be missing out on the curriculum. In Canada, we seem to have a problem with the weather. So a lot of times parents, the push we'll get is about going outside when it's really cold outside. And the way we work around that, really kind of giving some parents some strategies for, staying warm and reassuring them. I think there's a lot of reassurance that goes into that, because even when it is below, we'll go outside with our students and we make sure we have extras of everything. We talk to the parents, we give lots of information about, how to dress properly in cold weather. So that's been the major pushback that we've had.
Okay, wonderful. Any other thoughts, Peter or Eliza? Okay.
I haven't had any major pushback from any administration or adults per se. A lot of questions at the beginning of the year, maybe some more just wanting to know more, hear and see what I'm doing, and give that research and basically take them out as well. I have a parent information night right at the beginning of the year where I basically take the families out and show them some of the things that we're doing. It pretty much shows them that, okay, they're in good hands and they're doing some great benefits. Also, I've been able to use now prior parents from prior years that can kind of be mentors for new parents and kind of provide a little bit more insight and the experience for their own kid. And really haven't had a lot of parent pushback in terms of the program, and the administration has been very supportive. So I've been very lucky. And I think once more information is out there, and once parents see their kids and their happiness and the growth that their kids have, you lose a lot of that hesitation and that worry pretty quickly.
I really like that idea of the parents helping other parents, and even students helping other students, and we can see their happiness and the benefits. And like you said, your school placed third in the state, Peter, with their report card scores. That's
Correct.
Pretty impressive.
Correct.
So if you get pushback from parents or admin, sharing resources, the documentation, and really providing the resources, but how about liability issues? Climbing trees can be risky activity. Cracking ice can be a risky activity. Being outdoors in the cold in Ottawa can be a risky activity. So how about liability? Jackie, can you help us weigh in? Because I feel like you're also in the cold in New England. So how about liability issues and how to convince our administration to proceed forward with forest days?
Yeah, I think, we haven't had issues with liability in terms of administrators or parents, but there are, I met a lot of very nice, friendly people at my district school board who work in risk management, facilities, and the maintenance departments have also kind of become involved in our forest school program because of the risk associated with going outside. So right now we have been working with the Canadian Public Health Association on developing a risky a risky play toolkit. So we were interviewed for that. But the main thing I've done really with the risk assessment department, risk management department, I invited them out to my site to see what I was doing on the schoolyard, to show them that I'm not really in the business of putting students in harm's way. I really want to reduce risk for my students. So I would show them things, how I did a risk assessment of our schoolyard, or show them how I stored the parts that we were using. I demonstrated along with my students how we develop rule and guidelines around safe play. So we do allow stick play with the students. So we have some guidelines around stick play. So we have a little expression, stick needs space. So bringing people out onto our site really, it's one part charm offensive, and but just to show them that we are concerned about student safety, as well as bringing this great program to them.
If I could add, so I would get trained, if you were the teacher, or send the teacher to get trained. Amy Butler in Vermont is someone that I contact a lot at North Branch Nature Center. Ann Stiers through Antioch University New England has a course on benefit and risks that I highly recommend. And so reaching out to get some training and get a good approach to bringing kids into wild spaces is a good place to start. Don't be alone. So whenever you're going on a venture, obviously don't be alone, but visit the site with people who are from your area, who have a lot of history in your area, and who have spent time on the land. So at least where we are in Vermont, there are lots of people with a lot of experience hunting and sugaring and logging, and those people know the woods, and so they know what to look out for. And they know that, and you get somebody local, and they know who was on that land years before, and they'll tell you about the wells to look out for. So reach out, don't be alone, and that's just another way to pull more people into the excitement and greatness of the idea of being out there.
And I think another element, I'm sorry. I think another element to discuss is just the concept of risk in general. There's so much research out there that shows that traditional playgrounds are where there's so much injuries, and because those traditional manicured playgrounds don't offer children the opportunity to do risk. They're built in a way to avoid bubble wrap. And kids are going to find ways around that, and kids are finding ways around that, and they're finding ways that are much riskier and hazardous and getting hurt. Whereas you put a kid on a tree, their focus, their attention, they're motivated by it. I have kids that you watch them go down a slide and you're worried that they're going to get hurt. Yet I have no worry about them climbing one of our fallen trees, because they are in the zone and they're paying attention and they're there. And in that plastic tube, they're not there. So yes, I agree with all these things. You do have to keep in mind what the land's like, the different things that are out there throughout the year. But you also have to really just understand the concept of risk and how kids need risk. And it's not a matter of something to avoid, it's something to utilize and help them through the process. And without risk, you're just really, it's not learning, and it's really fun to see the kids do those things on their own and independently, and with some guidance as well.
Peter, and to jump on your point, Peter, I had a student a few years ago who climbed trees at forest school, and on the following year, when he was in a different classroom, on the second day of school, he was playing on our approved, Canadian Standards Association approved placer, fell off and broke his arm. So we have risk there. I send students to the office all the time after gym class because they've bonked their head on something. They seem to get hurt more often in sort of the zones rather than when we're outside on our school days.
Exactly.
And since we're part of the NAAEE series this evening, so let's talk about risk to the environment. So Peter, I'm curious, we're talking about risk for children and how they're more safe in the outdoors and climbing a log or a tree versus a slide or playground equipment. But how do you navigate not stepping on plants or picking plants? How do you navigate those conversations with your students to encourage stewardship and taking care of the earth?
And that's a great, obviously a great point, and something that kids get experience. And kids getting started in nature can be a bit destructive and a bit unfamiliar with the territory around them. So it is a matter of where there is going to be some teaching opportunities. A lot of it too is, you sometimes get the feel, don't pick anything, don't grab anything. A lot of that too is understanding what's really out there and really knowing your site, knowing like if my kids want to rip off some of the goldenrod and really investigate the goldenrod, we'll be okay. We have plenty of goldenrod. But if we find something that's maybe not as plentiful, that might be something where we discuss and we keep our hands off. So it's really finding that balance. And that changes as the year goes on, and that changes with different kids. You might have kids that don't touch anything, and you might have kids who have no idea what staying on the trail means. So you really have to kind of know your kids and understand your site to really know that. But as the kids get more familiar with the land and they learn how to appreciate, they learn why it's there, they learn the benefits that it has for the world around them, it's amazing how they themselves kind of are their own police in taking care of nature, and how they help each other find ways to work around being adventurous and being excited about doing all the things, but also taking care of the land that they want to preserve for not only themselves, but for the next class and for the next year. So the kids with experience, I think that's the huge thing. As long as the kids have experience and know about things and learn about things, they tend to take care of themselves. You kind of give them that power and that control and give back. And yes, there will be some blurbs along the way where maybe some mistakes are made and sticks are broken. But in terms of your site, depending on how the sensitive plants that are out there, it really, I mean, most sites are probably going to be okay, be resilient. Mother Nature will always win out in my mind. So I think she can take a few bumps and bruises from a couple 5 and 6 year olds, but it's all about getting the kids out there and experiencing it.
Yeah, I see that frequently as well. When they experience it, they learn to take care of it. When they learn to take care of it, they learn the love for it. I would definitely agree with that. So we have kind of dove in a little bit about administration and parents, but I'm so curious about curriculum. How are we meeting standards when you're still taking the kids outdoors and maybe going rogue for a day? So do you actively, kind of checking in with Jackie, do you actively aim to be teaching a particular topic outdoors? And if so, or if not, how do you connect the outdoors then when you're back inside in your classroom?
That's a great question. A lot of times when I'm going outside with my students, it kind of depends on the day and the group of students with. So sometimes I will have a particular concept that I'd like to them, and I like to see it more as a provocation. So just kind of, I'm going out fishing, I'm throwing out a little bait, I'm maybe doing a reel out or setting out some materials that the students can use, and maybe some students jump on and they'll be curious and they'll want to follow through that. And others won't, because they'll have their own plan of what they'd like to explore that day. So that's generally how I proceed. But sometimes you'll be with a group of students who just have an absolute strong vision of what their day is going to be like. So there is no need for that initial provocation. They could just get going and go explore what they're interested. Sometimes when I worked with older students, so I find the kindergarten children are so really curious that they need fewer provocations. As you're working with older students who maybe have lost natural curiosity, sometimes it's a little comforting for them to have a challenge or something to look for. So, I could give them a field guide or, some animal tracking sheet to give them something to focus their noticing. And but pretty soon you realize they realize, and they feel more confident in the outdoors, and they're willing to take that risk and lead their learning.
Wonderful, thank you. Eliza, are you seeing the same kind of start with provocations and eventually the children will take their own risks and begin to learn in nature and with nature? And Peter, is this something you're seeing as well? I'm just curious, how does curriculum work for both of you too?
I see a variety. I see classrooms with a culture where they, when the teacher takes them outside, there's it's play heavy, and that's a positive thing. And then there are teachers working in schools where that doesn't fit their school culture as much, and there's a little bit more teacher directed time, although I think they all have, mostly I work with kindergarten teachers, and they all have a substantial amount of unstructured playtime in the wild space. But there are teachers that will have a teacher-directed lesson that's nature-inspired, that's reflective of what's going on seasonally and what's going on in the classroom and what's going on for them in terms of the Common Core. So there's a variety, certainly, that I see. But one thing we recommend that we did when we were teaching, and we do when we teach with other teachers, is we debrief at the end of the day and keep track of what happened that wasn't on the plan, but that is totally in the Common Core, that is in NGSS, that has to do with units we might not have gotten to yet, but it came up. And so we're noting that. So we keep track of what goes on, even if it wasn't in our plan at the get-go.
That's awesome. I love that idea. And Peter, how do you navigate the particular topic, or what does it look like in your setting?
For sure, yeah. Teaching to the seasons is obviously going to be beneficial. Here in Wisconsin, we get the seasons usually within the same week. So you get a lot of chance to be really diverse in your lessons and the things that you're teaching with the family or the kids. But I think it's really important to keep in mind that you don't want to mold the curriculum or the kids to fit the curriculum. You want the curriculum to fit the kids. So I really try to take the kids' lead and find ways that I can connect what they're interested in, what they notice, and find ways to match the curriculum. And when it comes to reading and writing and literacy, you can find so many things that the kids that are interested in. You can find your way and find the materials for you, find those resources. It's maybe a little bit more than just taking your box curriculum and just going through the lessons and chugging along, but it's more meaningful, it's more memorable, and I think it's just giving the chance to let those kids be the power makers and be the leaders. They're creative, they're geniuses, they're just bursting with information if we just let them learn. So I really try to give them as much power in the curriculum as possible, and I mold my curricular standards around the things that they're doing, always finding ways, resources in the community to build those connections and to deepen those things. But one thing when it comes to reaching the curriculum that maybe is a little bit sidetracked off the main point of this question is, when you spend time with kids outside and just let them be, when they do come inside, they are more focused, I would say. Their attention is there. They're more physically ready to learn, and where you can hit more of those standards and more of the traditional ways. I know Erin Kenny, one of her famous sayings was, you can't keep the kids, I'm going to screw it up, but the kids don't bounce off the walls if you remove the walls, something like that. If you get the kids outside to, explore. If we have a little motto every day, we start and play with natural play. So we'll go outside every day for the first 15, 20, 45 minutes, depending how it goes. When they come inside, we don't have as much time, but the time we have is more focused. It's more directly related to what we need to do. So you find that balance, but I think you don't lose part of the curriculum. When you take kids outside, for me, it's you gain it, and you're not doing justice to the kids, the whole child development and their academic development by keeping them inside. Take them outside, get them some exposure, even if it's taking a hike every single day. That time will come back to you more focused and more powerful when they're inside.
Okay. You're all so passionate. I can just see you all nodding in agreement, and it sounds like where there is a will, there is a way, and you will find the best pathway for the school or for the teacher. But speaking of the teacher, I'm curious, what's the best way to prepare a teacher that has never taken a class outside? How do you teach them to teach in an outdoor setting, or teach them how to support emerging curriculum? Or perhaps they don't have time for professional development. So how can we prepare teachers for this kind of work?
Read Eliza's book. Read Eliza's book. I think one easy way is just to go outside yourself. Do it small doses. I kind of made a little list when I started. I wanted to get more of my own staff outside to come out and just kind of use the land. So I wanted to make it as easy as possible. So I developed a little list called Nature's Dozen, and I'm more than happy to share that with anyone who wants it. But basically, it just goes through, and it's not necessarily sequential, but it sort of looks like it, how you can easily get started by incorporating more outdoor time. And sometimes it's as easy as just hiking out to recess. If you have outdoor space, just taking a little extra walk out to recess. Sometimes it's, instead of doing whatever lesson you're going to do at the carpet, do that exact same lesson just outside. Yeah, the first day or two, it might be dealing with more distractions. There might be more things going on that you rein in what the kids are doing and see what they're interested in. But you take that away from them, and that's going to be a problem. When you keep doing it, keep it coming, it does work. And those kids do want to be in that outdoor setting, and they will not miss out on any of the things that they would do in the indoors. So something as simple as just going outside and doing the exact same lesson. Then maybe going outside and instead of using simple math tools, plastic math tools, just use rocks or sticks, and kind of just making a little bit more nature-like every time you go. And before you know it, you'll be full-blown nature-based, and the indoor won't mean anything to you.
That sounds like the very first question we talked about. What does the hybrid model look like? And you said keeping the same expectations, keeping the same routines and rules. So it really sounds like the first time to take another teacher out, it might be helpful to really just take that lesson out. Eliza, with that new book of yours, do you have any other insight that you could share with us tonight of how to really support teachers as well?
Yeah, the first thing I say, I work with teachers who ask for me to come work with them. Being a teacher myself, I'm not in the business of telling teachers what they have to do. I think in education, we should hire creative, thoughtful, really smart people to teach our kids, and then trust that they'll do the best for our kids. So, but yeah, if people think the best is taking them outside, I'm going to be there. And then, because I don't want to send someone outside with an adult who doesn't want to be there. I just want to make that clear. But if you do want to be there, one way that we've found really successful to work with teachers is to run a professional learning community where teachers who want to come learn a little bit more about this join a group, and we run it through the school year. It's in the evening, a couple hours. We do a little more frequency in the fall, and then it spreads out to once every other month. So not a big burden. We provide food. We bring a warm dinner. We make a warm dinner. We visit different people's sites, and then we sort of move through sort of the nitty-gritty details. So we start with making sure we understand our motivations for our big goals for why we want to spend more time outside with children. And then we go through stuff like choosing a site and risk-benefit analysis and hazard mitigation. And then we do infrastructure. Do you need to build yourself a latrine? Do you need to build a fire pit? How do you do that safely? And then we talk about routines that have worked for us. And then we get into more of our things we're going to do in the winter to get through. It's been 20 degrees for what feels like 8 months now. It's lovely, but it's been cold for a while in Vermont. And so we just kind of move through the details that help support teachers being out there while eating a warm dinner together.
Eliza, is that learning community, is that free to anyone who would like to sign up? I'm curious a little bit more about that, to hear a bit more.
Yeah, the one that we have run, we've charged a little bit. So we would have like 9 sessions. It's like 22 hours total over a school year. And we charge like $150 or $200. Teachers use their professional development money. I'm connected with Antioch so they can get a grad credit if they want. But I think these things are popping up everywhere. And sometimes it's a teacher in a district who leads it for other teachers in her district. And in that case, it's just part of their afternoon meeting once every other month or something, to get together and share photos of what they've done outside and just sort of support each other, fill up each other's buckets. And it's nice to get together with people who are like-minded, and it easier to go back to your own setting when you're in a group of happy, cheerful, outdoor loving teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are having conversations with our administration and teachers, and we are supporting emerging curriculum, and we're starting with the same routines and things like that. But how about the end product, or the end result, if you will? We still are looking to document the standards and the curriculum with the curriculum. So how are we meeting those standards, and what are the things or the tools that you're using to make sure that your curriculum is effective in the outdoors?
I can jump in there. Yeah. Okay. So when I go outside with students, the day after we come out, we go outside. So usually the full day is pretty exhausting. Don't do we'll have a knowledge building circle at the end of our outdoor time. But the following day, I have the students write the story of the day. So I ask them when they come in, what did they notice? And together we'll create the story day, and it's at that I connect it back to the big ideas in the curriculum, and try and see that we're exploring what they're learning is related to the curriculum. I will say this was math strand 2A, but I will sort of maybe retell it for them. I also do a lot of pedagogical documentation, taking lots of photos. I post pictures on Twitter, so the parents to share with the parents. I post photos on an app called Seesaw, and oftentimes I'll post a photo or a video, and students can either press record and they can talk about the photo, or I'll put a little caption. This is a way to communicate to parents that, here's a child playing with some sticks, but they're not really playing with sticks. It's structures and materials, and they're trying to figure out how to make their structure more solid. So, they say a picture tells 1,000 words, but sometimes it doesn't always tell 1,000 words. Sometimes, it's a cute picture of my kid outside playing, but really there's some deep happening. So through pedagogical documentation, is a way for me to add some details to their day, so that we can relate it back to the curriculum.
And Peter, how do you relate your meeting the standards in your school in Wisconsin? Is it the same way with photos and sharing to parents? What do your tools look like?
Sure. Yeah, we use lots of photos. The kids take a lot of their own pictures as well, and we have a classroom blog that the parents have access to. We have a little wonder wall that we put right outside our door that kind of connects to our essential question through our project-based kind of mentality, and just kind of showing pictures and activities the kids are doing to reach that question. Another thing that I have, and I think I've talked about this before, but it's a little play profile, and it's a 2-page document that I created, and basically one side is just I draw observations about what I'm seeing, and the second side pretty much has standards and report card items on the back, descriptors, and during the unstructured time where they're doing what they want to do, that's where I kind of just walk around and observe and write what they're doing, and then document how what they're doing is connected to those report card descriptors and the curricular standards. And it's amazing how quickly they fill up, and how I can just show the parents, hey, this is what the kids did when they're playing, not necessarily when I'm teaching, when they're teaching themselves and they're working together. So, but photos are a big part of what we do. Mm-hmm. Videos, just using your iPads. There's so many easy to use apps, because I'm technologically not so savvy. So easy ways to be able to document the things that you're doing and easily share it to your staff, to your kids, so that they can share it as well to their families.
Okay. All right. So I really like the ideas of sharing with families and the power of pictures. Pictures worth 1,000 words. But Eliza, can you help me understand, what are some strategies then to incorporate or help a public school integrate place-based education or the nature-based pedagogy? So pictures are great, but how do we get to that step, and how do we help administration to get there?
I think you celebrate it when you find it. If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator who's on this, if you find, if you see something going on you lift it up so more people see it, and teachers see that it's something that is appreciated and valued. And then the next thing I would say, where I wrote in some notes, is that what Peter was saying is that teachers can, especially of young children, need to be translators for the audiences, for parents, for administrators, for taxpayers at town meeting, of showing the depth of what's going on. A lot of what happens in an outdoor nature-based type of programming is subtle and is not easily absorbed by many people. But I think that's the job of the teacher is to translate the subtlety, to really show what's going on. So I hope that teachers find that they're able to do that. Not that you really have that much time, but I think it helps.
That's an amazing way of phrasing it. I love that.
Thanks.
Thanks. So Jackie and Eliza and Peter, all of you have a green space at the schools that you're working with. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you help us out? What would a public school in Chicago do, or in Boston? How can folks who don't have access to a forest preserve or a nature center close? Do you have any resources or ideas to get them outdoors as well to help support those schools?
Well, at my previous school, I was in a suburban neighborhood, but there weren't a lot of wild green spaces in the school. So we were using a hydro easement, so a utility easement as our outdoor space. And I can tell you that even though it wasn't full forest, the students still felt really connected to the place because there was a green space in their community. And at one point, the green space is going to be the part beside the large electrical door was going to be sold to be a yard for our light rail system that's going in Ottawa. And the children were really upset that this green space was going to disappear. And they started writing letters to our city council. But all this to say is that the space that children use, if you're in an urban setting, doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be, a wonderful nature preserve. It can be any green space. As long as it's part of their community, the children will feel really connected to it. They'll learn to care about the animals and plants that call it home, and they'll want to visit it. Our students started bringing their families to visit the green space. And it became just a wonderful space. And here I'm at a different school, sort of more beautiful, traditional outdoor space, but I miss that forest, and I was visiting with former students.
Thank you for weighing in on that. That's wonderful. I like it. Any space can be utilized in the outdoors. It doesn't have to be a forest preserve or a woodland. That's really great. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I think we will ask maybe another question or two. Do you have any other thoughts rather than what you're doing now? If you could look back maybe a year or two ago or 3 years ago, what would you do differently? What would you change? What is your advice to all of the folks out there that are wanting to go on this adventure, but they just haven't yet? What would you offer them for some advice?
Okay, I can answer that one. I would say find a friend. As a public school teacher, sometimes you're the first person to decide to go outside with your class. And jumping off what Eliza had said earlier, it's really important to going outside to have someone to go with. And also to bounce ideas off of, and when you're feeling sort of down, because it's not always easy going outside with your students. Sometimes you'll maybe get pushback from colleagues who are, what are you doing? And are you really covering the curriculum going outside with your students? It's always nice to have a buddy to go with. I know my former colleague and I, we would often, kind of encourage each other. If one of us was feeling, oh, it's kind of cold outside, I'm not sure I really want to go outside. The other one would be like, no, I'm dressed, ready to go. Let's go. Out we go. So that would be my advice, is to find a friend to work with.
I echo that a million times over. Find a partner. It could be a retiree, it could be a parent, it could be a teacher intern, someone to be there with you. And that thing of they show up dressed, you gotta go. And you do that for them. And you have different perspectives on risk, and that's good to discuss things. There's so many benefits from it. So many benefits.
Yeah, one word of advice that I've given to other teachers, and it's find your passion. And my passion is taking kids outside. And obviously, if you're attending this webinar, that's probably a passion of yours as well. And when you're a teacher, you have to, some days aren't going to be those best days of your life, and you have to kind of put on that mask and, let those kids see you in your best, even when you're not. And if you find something that you're passionate about, that comes out so much easier. If you're doing something that you just don't feel is best for your kids, that you just don't feel that this is not what my kids need, then that's going to show, and your kids are going to see that as well. So you really have to find your passion, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's going outside on hikes, whatever it is, find your passion, and the curriculum will connect. You will make it happen. You will make it happen if you just take that chance. And I'm just so glad that I've been able to meet all these wonderful people and so many more that share this passion with me, because there's always people there to bounce ideas with, to talk about, to share, and to learn new things from. So find your passion, and you will find other people that share that passion with you. And hopefully, like Jacqueline and Eliza said, you'll go with them, and you'll be buddies with them and build something really special.
All right, so if I have a passion and I find a buddy, maybe Jackie can be my buddy, but what if I have challenging behaviors in my classroom? I might be scared to go outside. Or what if I have a child of different abilities? Have you had any experience with those kinds of issues, and how do you navigate around those things?
Yeah. Well, oftentimes when I'm speaking to colleagues about this, they will say one of their barriers to going outside is they have those challenging students. And to those colleagues, I urge them just to take their students outside and read a story to them and see the difference between students in a school inside versus sitting outside. All of a sudden, when you go outside, a lot of those really challenging behaviors disappear. And if you're working with students who are differently abled, you're accommodating inside the classroom. It's just as straightforward to accommodate them outside the classroom. And you definitely want to give them the same opportunities to go outside.
So where there is a will, there is a way.
There's a way, yeah.
Yeah, we're passionate educators. I can feel that. Peter, did you have a thought there as well?
My thought is, if people are coming in kind of if you can, you can, if you can't, you can't. If they come in with the attitude that, I've got this kid that's just a behavioral challenge, it's just going to be a nightmare, then it will be. I mean, you've got to try it. You've got to see it. And, you set yourself up with the right support, and you problem solve, and you kind of brainstorm ahead of time. Okay, what are some potential issues that may arise here, and what happens if they do? And, those things could happen, and new things that you wouldn't even thought of could happen. But in the same way, like Jackie just said, you'll be amazed at sometimes what struggles you see with kids on the inside. You take them outside, and those struggles don't appear. In the same way, kind of similar, and not necessarily behavior challenge kids, but you're more introverted kids. I have some kids that in the classroom would not speak. They wouldn't raise their hand. They're just, if you didn't talk to them, you wouldn't know they would exist in your classroom if you didn't go out of your way. When they're outside, whoa, you'll see a difference. And I mean, every kid is going to show you a different side of them when you give them a different experience. But like nature-based education and going outside, it has so many benefits. So giving kids that opportunity, you'll be able to see them in a different perspective and use what you're seeing to really help them become the best independent people they can be.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for weighing in on that, you all. Well, let's see here. I'm going to share a screen again. 1 minute. Okay. All right. I encouraged you all to ask your questions in the discussion box, so I do thank you again for that. And I just want to ask, any final thoughts? Any final thoughts for this evening for our wonderful attendees?
I'll chime in to say, just try it. Just try something. So take a book under a tree, just on the outside of the school walls, or take snack outside. Just those first little steps, and find a partner, and then go from there. And just build slowly. That's my best advice. And you can do it, and it is wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, yesterday I was out in the forest with my students, and I was sitting around a campfire with 10 of them, bannock over the fire, and they did the bannock themselves, the skewers themselves, and they're cooking it, they're eating it. They said, "This is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten." And I thought, this is the best job ever. And I was thinking, I can't believe I'm getting paid today. So just that in mind. I mean, it is a wonderful opportunity, and every day is better outside. And I encourage everybody just to try it.
Thank you. Peter, final thoughts?
I agree with them. No, similar. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but yeah, go out there and give it a shot, but find your passion. And if you say, you know what, this isn't for me, then it's not going to be the best situation for the kids that are with you. But you find that bright person, you connect and you team up, and you can find different ways to reach whatever your passion is. But find whatever your passion is, bring that to your classroom. That will shine off on your kids. Your kids will be inspired to find their own passion, find their own education, even if it's something that you wouldn't expect. I mean, giving those kids that passion, showing that you are in something and you want to do something, you're constantly a lifelong learner. It's not boring to you. You're not just going through the motions. You show that excitement for the kids and you're not faking it, you're living it. Like I'm living it. I get to go outside every day with my kids and I never know what I'm going to find. And I get excited about the things just as much as they do. And they see that, they feed off of that. And it just creates an environment where you are part of the learning. You're not the leader. You're not the dictator of learning. You're in it with the kids. And it's just a very, very cool experience. So give it a whirl.
I want to give it a whirl now. I want to encourage all of our public schools here in the Chicago area to get outdoors. And like you said, Peter, if you're passionate about it and you let that shine, it'll shine onto the children, it'll shine onto other educators, and it'll shine onto the administration. So it sounds like conversations, resources and documents, and just backing up by inviting people out to your spaces is the way that we can shine on and continue to spread nature-based education into traditional education. So I want to thank everyone this evening for joining, especially our panelists. Thank you all so much. You are full of information and wonderful ideas and resources. We couldn't have done this without you this evening. If you would like to find the recording of this, please head on over to the EE Pro website and click on the Learning tab. You will also all be emailed out a link within a few hours or by tomorrow with the recording of this webinar, so you can share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and continue to shine on with their passion. And let's keep the webinar going. The series will be back in 2019. So if you have feedback or want to share ideas for another webinar series, please head on over and go to the Survey Monkey, and we'd like to know your feedback. So once again, we do have an upcoming webinar on Tuesday, January 29th at 4 o'clock with Angela Park and the Mission Critical and the Sustainability Leaders Network. She is wonderful about discussing inclusion and equality and the things that we are striving for in education. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.